So this discussion is part of a regional initiative that is led by Kituo cha Sheria in collaboration with the Legal Empowerment Network and the Africa Center of Excellence on Access to Justice. So what we are focused on is on legal empowerment organizations like yourselves, and we're working on building a community of legal empowerment practitioners. So through building a community, what we're trying to do is cultivate a communal space and strengthen a sense of solidarity among legal empowerment practitioners. The other point of focus is learning. So we're looking at identifying collective learning priorities and developing opportunities for practitioners to meet and to learn from each other. Lastly, we're also focused on advocacy. So here we're looking at initiating or building momentum around regional advocacy campaigns based on and drawn from collective priorities. So today's session is focused on building our community of legal empowerment practitioners. So over the years, and by the way, just to put a disclaimer, I know the terms legal empowerment and legal aid are used interchangeably. So during the presentation, during this discussion, we will be aware of that as well. So over the years, we have been using legal empowerment as an approach to promote people-centered justice. Yet in most cases, we continue to still face the same justice challenges. So is this a question of tact? Should we rethink how we use legal empowerment as an approach? Is legal empowerment still useful in promoting access to justice? So for today's discussion, we have Kituo cha Sheria, Heal East Africa, Lawyers of Hope Rwanda, and the Legal Aid Forum from Rwanda, as well as the Namati Citizenship Team from Kenya. We will go around and have your introduction. Please state your name, your organization, and a brief description of what you do, and then we can delve straight into the questions. So we'll start with Mustafa. Please introduce yourself.
Hi all, my name is Mustafa Mahmoud. I'm the Senior Program Manager, Citizenship Program, Namati Kenya, or Namati Global. I'm based in the Nairobi office, and we work on issues of citizenship rights with communities that are discriminated and have to go through differential treatment to get nationality rights. And we use the legal empowerment approach in terms of our work. And I'll be sharing more of that.
Thank you, Mustafa. Annette?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annette Mbogo. I work as the Executive Director of Kituo cha Sheria. Kituo cha Sheria is a human rights organization that focuses around access to justice. And we have been implementing legal empowerment programs for now 48 years. And actually tomorrow is our anniversary, our 40th anniversary. So happy birthday to Kituo. Yes, so I'm really happy to be in this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to learning from you, Kituo, having been in the game for 48 years, telling us about the impact of legal empowerment. Mwangi Karaoke.
Thank you, Amy. My name is Eric Karaoke. I work for Heal East Africa. I'm the head of the Heal East Africa Hub. At Heal, we believe in developing user-friendly, people-centered justice. And how we do this is through data, evidence-based, to understand ordinary people's issues. Then we identify, find innovators who have developed design solutions that actually helping people access justice in a more user-friendly way. And then lastly, working with justice leaders to transform the formal legal system for it to accommodate innovation, but also to use data to design solutions that work for people. I'm happy to be here and I'm looking forward to a fruitful conversation. And thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have representation from Lawyers of Hope or Legal Aid Forum? Jean-Paul, you.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Jean-Paul Ibambe. I work for the Legal Aid Forum as programs manager. The Legal Aid Forum is a network of 38 legal aid providers in Rwanda. Mainly what we do is provision of legal aid through legal assistance, representation to vulnerable people. We do also legal education, research and advocacy, as well as human rights protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. You're most welcome. And last but not least, I hope we have representation from Lawyers of Hope. Is Juve? Juve is here with us. I don't see Juve, but hopefully Juve will be able to join us as well. As you can see, the discussion today is quite Kenya and Rwanda heavy, but still I'm sure we can learn from each other. So going on to the first question, and I will definitely start with Kituo Chasheria. What is legal empowerment in your view? And Annette, if you allow me to, be very direct to the question towards Kituo Chasheria. So Kituo Chasheria prides itself in being a legal aid institution, a human rights institution, as well as a legal empowerment institution. So with all those identities, what do you think legal empowerment is to you? Do you have a specific ideology towards legal empowerment?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Amy. Yes, so we keep talking about legal empowerment, and I think the question then is, what do we actually mean when we refer to that term? And for us, I think legal empowerment is more of transferring power to those who are powerless. And we pride ourselves in saying that we work with poor and marginalized communities, and the law being then used as that tool of the transfer of power from the powerful to the powerless. And the law in itself can actually be used as a tool to balance power in a theoretical sense. And so we find that legal empowerment is more of how do we enhance and empower communities through the law with the legal knowledge, so that they are then able to use that knowledge to transform their own lives, as well as shape institutions and shape systems that relate to the law. There are many, we also have to be alive to the fact that the law in itself has limitations, and there are many limitations that may arise from how the law is made. I mean, the law is not made within an equal space. The law also is viewed to be biased in some instances, and people have critiqued the law as not really being equal in the sense of the process that is used to make law. But then again, law is not necessarily implemented. We may have law, but then to what extent as our systems and institutions applying law? And for us as Kenyans, this is a real problem, especially now increasingly we are finding that our government and many even individuals are not really enforcing law. So we find that law, in as much as law can be used as a tool to balance power, but then we must be alive to the limitations of the law, that it can be a problematic tool to use, especially where you are trying to put forward and advance an agenda for poor and marginalized communities. So I think for us, it's more of, bringing, empowering people so that, and empowering them not just externally to use law, but also internally to feel confident enough that they can assert their rights in their own capacity. And this is where our programs around paralegalism have come up and have been designed, so that when you give confidence to the community, that they can actually assert the rights in their own capacity, as opposed to relying to institutions or individuals to do so. So we see legal empowerment, broadly speaking, as, really changing people from the inside to the out.
Okay, thanks for that explanation, giving people power and the tools to be able to change their lives. But one thing I've always like, when we have a discussion about legal empowerment and giving power to people to claim their rights, one thing I always want to take along in this conversation is that the people themselves that we want to help, the communities themselves that we want to help, also have agency. So I always look at it as a point where we're bringing, yes, the legal knowledge, but the community themselves have agency. The community does not need Kituo cha Sheria to come in and tell them what is happening is wrong. What they need, is avenues through which they can come together, collaborate with Kituo cha Sheria and claim those rights. I see that we're joined by Frank Musabe from Lawyers of Hope Rwanda. So it's a full house. Frank Musabe, you're welcome. And we will just continue with the round of questions, and we will eventually make our way to you. Jean-Paul, the Legal Aid Forum, what does legal empowerment mean to you?
Thank you very much. In a brief and a simple way, by legal empowerment, we understand what we can call legal education. Framework, if it happened to someone or to a certain people, to maybe he is all in conflict with the law, for example. So is he capable of defending him or herself? And by empowerment also, apart from that, having that knowledge, is he assisted or is she assisted enough in all proceedings so that the rights are well protected? So briefly, that is what we understand by the legal empowerment. Thank you.
I think we'd lost Amy, so I will basically take up from where she dropped off. Thank you very much, Jean-Paul, for that. So just associating legal empowerment with legal education and empowering communities to be able to use the law to then address their legal challenges. So I'd then ask Eric from Hill to give his ideas around what legal empowerment means.
Well, thank you, Annette. It's a very, I think when you were speaking, I was more feeling like, yeah, that's it. So what do I have to add on to? So the only aspect I would like, or two aspects I'd like to answer to when I think of legal empowerment. So for me, I transition from just legality, which often sometimes is often anchored in law, to justice. Because sometimes what we fail to understand is that, yes, we may perceive that there are certain things that the law is rightly inadequate, has its own limitations, or doesn't cover certain emergent issues that have been sort of addressed or have been addressed at a very communal level. So when I look at it is, what do people perceive justice in their community? And how do they navigate the issues towards preventing those issues and also resolving them when they do occur? Because naturally people do understand, have a good degree of understanding of what justice looks like. It's how can we make it effortless, affordable, user-friendly for them to self-service, for them to adequately feel there has been a resolution, because resolution is, we talk about, yes, I know about this, I know what steps I can take and should take, but then is the mechanism as a system well built in to actually help them get to self-service and resolve those issues in whatever way that's possible? And that means also providing them a basket of options. So it's not always, because often what I feel and I notice a lot is that when people think about legal empowerment is that I understand the law. I understand the law from a perspective that I need to contact a lawyer, and a lawyer has to take my case to court and resolve it there. But what we have seen from evidence is that a lot of people are solving these problems in very at the ground level, either with both those in conflict with the law, or the victims, or the survivors, or using traditional ways of doing it. And how can we continue to amplify these alternative justice mechanisms to help people resolve their issues? So for me, fundamentally, are people getting their issues resolved in a timely, in an affordable, and in a user-friendly way? And that's what I would call as the legal empowerment for me.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Now moving from legality to justice. And I think I agree with Eric that people understand where there's been an injustice and where justice has been done. And so just building up on that so that you can find people-driven solutions to justice problems. And I think and solutions that can be easily accessible, can be affordable, and allowing the people themselves to determine, for instance, what platform would they want to use to address some of those challenges. So maybe we should be talking about justice empowerment as opposed to legal empowerment. Yeah, so Amy, you're back.
I'm back. What a travesty. How can my internet go out when Paul is just
at the heat of things?
I know. So, but I'm glad that I'm assuming that you just spoke to Jean-Paul and then you went to Eric.
Yes,
because I hear about
Eric,
justice power.
Okay. Yes, so Eric has just to put you up to date, is that Eric has spoken about the importance of moving from legalities to justice and giving people a basket of opportunities. That's what the term he used, for people to determine alternative means of resolving their own justice problems, and also ways that are affordable, effortless, and accessible. So I think it should be Mustafa going next. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that. And I do agree with Eric, because justice means different things to different people. Mustafa, in Namati, we are known for know law, use law, shape law as our legal empowerment cycle, legal empowerment ideology. Do you mind giving some meat to that tagline?
Yes, I'll give some flesh to that tagline, and that's completely it's a summary of what we do, because for long citizenship has been issues of national security, but through a lot of campaign we've been able to have conversations around nationality rights, removing it from favor to being a right and an entitlement. So basically, the no law comes in part whereby our paralegals teach this community that this is your right to have a document. There's a whole chapter in the Constitution that talks about citizenship rights. So basically, they teach people the law. They tell them that this is your right. And then also they teach them the process of application for you to, when do you qualify, what do you need, where do you begin, and where do you submit the documents. And then after that, they also collect a lot of information in the process of the application process for my ID, passport, and all that. So at that point, someone has already interacted with the law. They know what the law is, what the right is, what the process is. And then with the interaction of the law, when they realize that the law does not fit them, because, for example, they have to go through discrimination where it entails long waiting, different process like vetting where they have to go through a security process, or when they realize that they are told you don't qualify and all that, now they see where is the loophole in the law. So we are trying to make the people, because the aspect of legal empowerment is to give people the tool, which is the law. And then when this tool is not working for them, they shape the tool. So they've already known the law, they've used the law, they've tried to get the documentation. Even if they succeed, they've already seen the loophole in the process and in the law. Now they want to change the law. Last month, our member of parliament for Kibra, Mheshimiwa Imran Okoth, tabled a petition by the Nubian community. Just to give this context, is that this petition was not drafted by Imran Okoth. It was drafted by the Nubians in Kibra, who realized that for years they've been struggling to get a document, which is an ID. And it's a discrimination because they realize that the law is not working for them. Now they've gone to parliament to say, this law is not working for us. We want a change. We want an affirmative action for our community. So this is what we look at as no law, use law, and shape law. So when communities are given the tools, they are told, how do you apply? And then at the end of it all, they say, this is not working for us. What do we do? You can change the law through writing petition to parliament. And they've been given the tools. They were guided by the paralegals. They submitted the petition to the member of parliament, and the member of parliament submitted it to the floor of parliament. So that is a good example of how we look at it as Namati, where we know the law, they use the law, and then they shape the law, and it's not working for them.
Thank you for that example. And just by way of background, the Nubians are a community in Kenya that have really been fighting for their citizenship rights. They've been here since before independence, and they're yet to be identified as Kenyan citizens. So that's what Mustafa and his team work on. We are yet to hear from Frank Musabe from Lawyers of Hope in Rwanda. What does legal empowerment mean for you? Frank, if you are speaking, I think you're on mute. Hello, Frank. Just as we are talking about what legal empowerment means for us, we're also joined by colleagues from Zambia. Philip Sabuni from Zambia, perhaps you can share with us what legal empowerment means for your organization and how you work around it.
Well, thank you, Amy. Well, I mean, I think it means everything that everyone else has actually mentioned. Of course, to do with the legal education, to do with just explaining how legal procedures actually a goal, or how clients or how people that we serve actually should go about, for instance, if they want to take matters to court, for instance, if they have been taken to court, how do they defend themselves and all that process, to give them the information. Actually, for us, that's what it means when we say legal empowerment, all that process, to give them the information on what is their right, and things like that. I'll give you an example. Like in our situation in Zambia, the early 90s, we got it from one party state to multipartism, and there was a lot of issues to do with like Human Rights Commission, like government institutions telling people to say, it is your right to vote. Go and vote. Go and participate in the, this process, democratic process, and things like that. But people were like, "What are you talking about? Why should I vote? I'm not voting for my uncle, my son. I'm voting for another person. And things like that. So what's the benefit for me?" And it took a lot of explanations, for people just to appreciate what it was all about and things like that. And that process helps people to understand that they have a right to vote. And this is a process on how they should go about it and things like that. But also that when their rights have been infringed upon, what processes should they take? What steps should they take to make sure that they defend themselves, to make sure that they claim for the rights and things like that? That process, to give them the information. For us, I think that's what it means to when we say legal empowerment. But also, I appreciate the way Nemati puts it. How do they put it? I think they mentioned three things mostly.
No law, use law, and shape law.
Exactly. All that process, because you'll see the people when they have the information, then to use the same information, to use the law actually to defend themselves, to use the law to protect themselves and things like that. So it's just a way of empowering or giving the information to the people so that they're safe. They feel that they are safe. Of course there are challenges. I know probably you'll come to that part. There are other issues that come, and on. For instance, in our situation, women would say, okay, now we know that if this happens, it's GBV or gender-based violence, and I should report it and things like that. But there are other things that will inhibit them or that will limit them from doing, accessing, that justice because of other, underlying factors actually that may limit them to do that. So really, in my view, that's how we understand legal empowerment.
Thank you. So I think we have a similar thread in terms of, education, letting people know their rights, giving them, the opportunity or providing the pathway for them to claim their rights and shape the law in ways that they know how, as Mustafa had explained to us. Before we move on to the next question, I feel that we should listen to Frank Musabe. I hope your audio is correct, is working now. Frank from Lawyers of Hope. Oh, okay. We'll come back to you. We see that the way legal empowerment has been explained theoretically, at least by most of us, it seems like such a good strategy that we should be having really good results. But personally, when I used to work at Kituo cha Sheria, I used to get very frustrated because we would go to the community, we do legal education, land, labor, housing rights, and the same problems would come in, year out. Kituo is marking 48 years of doing this kind of work, yet we still, if anything, the number of clients have increased. So would you say that legal empowerment has transformed lives, has transformed systems? What would you say about this situation where we continue to use the same tact and we continue to face the same problems? Annette.
You're asking me the hardest question.
Of course, you're the oldest.
Yeah. Well, I agree that sometimes they might get a feeling of frustration that things are not changing as fast as they are. But I mean, if you even look at the history of our organization and how things were, even including the governance and democracy and how it has transformed through the years, there may be some a bit of improvement, and I think it's not as much as we would want it to be, but I think there are a few instances where we do see successes, and I think sometimes it means success for one individual, one case at a time. Other times it may be, for instance, when you have a case involving an individual whose land was taken away and now through a court decision is able to reclaim their land. I mean, those are wins that we cannot shove away, or we have experienced those kind of wins. Or where you have advocated for so long for a particular framework within which people can access legal aid services from the state, and that is in place. So I think even as practitioners, we need to be aware that that change does not come instantly. It takes time. And even when we talk about transformation, what do we actually mean? And I think this is, when I was looking at the questions, I also thought to myself, what kind of change do we want to see? So in the ideal situation, if transformation for me would mean that you restore a particular person or a system beyond what it used to be to a much better place. So for instance, if someone had faced an injustice, you don't only restore them to the position they were before that injustice, but they're even in a much better place than they were at that moment. And I think that is what transformation should look like. And then transforming not just individual lives, but also transforming systems and structures. And transformation of systems and structures is something that does not happen overnight. Even where you have a small win, where, for instance, the court makes a declaration that the state has an obligation to provide legal aid, that's a win that we must celebrate and keep on pushing for the time when that is actually fully realized. So I think we need to be aware that it will take time, as many other human rights struggles, it will take time, but to be constantly looking for those minor changes that we are seeing and positive change, and building up on those for much bigger systemic change. Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned something to do with courts. And I know one of the challenges we face as a legal aid institution, or even using public interest litigation or strategic litigation as a tool for legal empowerment or for change, is that we have a lot of paper victories. So you have the court has ruled in your favor that the community should go back to that piece of land, for example, if they were evicted, but there's a problem with enforcement. So if I borrow Namati's tagline, know law, use law, shape law. We're already doing all these things. There's a gap in terms of transforming that law so that it makes sense to the communities that we serve. So that transformation bit still remains quite a challenge. And I agree with you, Annette, that we just keep on and keep working at it. Mustafa, have you seen any transformation with legal empowerment, or do you think we should throw out the baby in the water?
You know, we are fighting a deeply rooted systemic discrimination. Discrimination, injustice is something that is really deeply rooted. It doesn't take one day, and sometimes you might think that your efforts are not being felt on the ground. But the fact that even someone comes back to the office is because there's an impact that they felt. They felt like you are you're like that ray of hope that they see. You know, most of the times with legal empowerment, something as simple as escorting someone to an office could make a very big impact, because this person feels like, I am not alone. So it's changing each life a day. So the fact that legal empowerment is that even giving confidence to an individual to claim that this is my right, that to me, I think is a big win. And let's not feel like efforts is not being felt. Sometimes you see like a coconut, planting a coconut, for it to come and remove a coconut takes years. It becomes a very beautiful plant with time, and then with years and years is when now you see the coconuts hanging in the tree. But even if it's hanging there, you also need an effort to go and pick it up there. So it's all about transformation. Legal empowerment I look at it in phases. The first phase is planting the seed, then nurturing the seed, now then weeding the plants, and then after that, now you take care of the plant until you get the fruit, and then now you start removing the fruit and harvesting it, and then start getting market for it. So I look at legal empowerment as a transformative stage. Each and every time there's a new challenge coming about, and we just need to adapt to the change. Let's not feel like, I'm always helping this community, but look at the aspect of next time when they come. Are they the same people that came before? You'll find that there is something new that they know. So the impact that you should see is the changes in every time that they come. There's that thing that they know that you cannot remove from them. So me, I look at it as the impact that we do on a daily basis. But legal empowerment, we should remember that we are fighting a deeply rooted thing, that it will take us years. And sometimes you'll not see it in your generation. If you look at the history of Europe, French Revolution, the people the revolutionaries who wrote about revolution never saw revolution. We came and read about it in history later on, decades after they've already died. So basically, for me, I look at it the same way. We are planting the seed. The communities are the ones who are going to see the change eventually.
Thank you, Mustafa, for that word of encouragement. Jean-Paul, I don't know if the Legal Aid Forum has seen the usefulness of legal empowerment strategies, some of the successes and maybe transformations you've seen within the communities you serve.
Thank you very much. So on the question whether our work has transformed maybe the lives of our beneficiaries, the answer is yes, and a big yes, and I will state why. Well, I can argue with my colleagues that maybe it is very difficult maybe to measure that transformation, or maybe there's an issue with the approach we use to get that transformation. But what normally we do is to conduct like evaluation to measure the impact of our work. Otherwise, if we are not transforming the lives of our beneficiaries, there's no need that we should continue working. Yeah. So I will give you an example. In our legal empowerment core mandate, like legal education and whatever, in 2017, we conducted a research, and that one indicated that there is one, lack of awareness on the rights and laws by the population, mostly those living from the at grassroots level. Two, there was issues related to long distance. People have to travel from their homes to reach the nearest legal aid provider or where they can get justice. There was issues related to the affordability of the legal services. Like I think it's not even in Rwanda only, but that is a global issue that legal services are very expensive. But mostly the length of time it takes, one, from the beneficiary to get where to get the service, the legal aid services, and maybe the time it takes when someone is initiating a case, the time it takes, like when he is doing it himself without assistance or representation, the time it takes just to get the legal redress. So we came up with a recommendation of if we can get a way of providing maybe legal information, education, awareness, legal awareness services to the population without moving from their homes. And that's when we initiated an ICT for Justice project or service, where with simple mobile phones, people are now able to get legal information by what we call USSD or IVR. You see, what we do, we conducted surveys to see which laws are most used by the population. We summarize that content, we put it into audio and text format. Then people can access that information free of charge via SMS by dialing *845#. Then they read the legal information, or they know where to be referred to, or where to refer their cases. Or they can call free of charge on 845. That is a toll-free line that we are using. And maybe if someone has like a critical issue, that option has a linkage to the call center established at our office. Then he can, or she can book a call back. Then we call him or her back. We advise him or her on the matter he or she is having. And when when the case is very critical, we deploy a lawyer to assist that particular person. So talking about transformation, for example, in 3 years only, 1 million Rwandans are coming to get service from this toll-free line. And before we initiated this service, the Legal Aid Forum have never reached 1 million beneficiaries, but in only 3 years, we are counting more than 1 million beneficiaries through this ICT initiative. So talking about transformation of the lives, like imagine 1 million Rwandans have got our services without moving from their homes and free of charge. So what we do also is just, we are talking about this legal empowerment. Of course, you cannot talk about legal empowerment without talking about paralegals. Of course, we have a network of around 3,000 paralegals countrywide. You see, we are in COVID pandemic time. You see, we were finding difficulties in getting maybe feedback from them, what they are doing, how we communicate with them. So we introduced an ICT tool, survey CTO, and we gave them some these tablets, so that like when they're receiving clients, when they're advising beneficiaries on their grassroots, at least we get feedback from them. So like we continue to get reports from them regularly. So we are seeing transformation, and transformation is only showcased by the impact our work is creating. So I will share some of the links of testimonies from our beneficiaries, or some videos about the project, so that in the chat room, so that people can have an idea of maybe the transformation of what we are doing. I mean, how what we are doing has transformed the lives of our beneficiaries. Thank you.
Wow, Jean-Paul, that is quite impressive with with the 1 million people who've been able to get access to legal information that they have in turn used to impact their lives, like Annette was saying, at an individual basis. That is still transformation when we talk about legal empowerment. Eric, from Hill, how does justice empowerment, the transformation of justice empowerment look to you? Have you had some bumps along the road?
Yes. So I think first, in contributing to this conversation, I think I would love to draw sort of on the solemnic words of Martin Luther King, when he said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it ultimately bends towards justice. So it's that belief that work is not easy. It's far from easy. But ultimately, it's the the small mixes of things that bring everything towards justice. So I mean, our work has largely, for 16 years, focused on, we begin the arrow pointing at the ordinary person. That means understanding their needs and their justice journey, and that's why annually, we're always trying to run a justice needs survey with ordinary people in different countries. Because at the end of the day, before I can prescribe anything to you, I need to understand what are the key issues, what are the key challenges you're facing, and that has always enabled us. And I think even our work has contributed. Last year, the judiciary launched the alternative justice systems in Kenya, and that was largely based on the justice needs survey that was done in Kenya a few years ago with Hill. We did for Ethiopia last year as well. And so it's fundamentally, our work has always been, I need to remove myself as a practitioner that I know best. And I ask the people who it matters for them what it knows. And then one of the beautiful when we started the Justice Accelerator, we have supported 175 innovators. So these are people in their communities feeling the need that, hey, there are better alternative ways to deliver justice. And they come and design for their community, with their community, because of the biggest thing you ask them, have you validated this, the solution or this idea? Does it actually work? Does it make sense for your community? And so seeing, this mushrooming of innovators who are working in their communities, understanding their needs, and actually building for their communities, it's citizen-led, it's people-led. So it has been a fantastic journey. Of course, there are challenges. We have run into challenges with the formal justice system where they are like, but this doesn't meet the structure of what we perceive should be justice, or the advocate's remuneration order, or why are you trying to encroach, as lawyers say, into a space? And sometimes it has led to unfortunate consequences where I remember there were two examples. Actually, I've had three. So the one example was where, we've seen arm twisting of an innovator. Because legally they can't challenge. If you take it to court, you probably win. But you're sat down by a lawyer and they tell you, innovator, so you're the lawyer in this startup. Okay. So we need you to stop doing this, or we will deregister you. And you see that it's not, they don't take you to court because you can easily win that case, but they have other tools in which they can enforce, which is deregistration. And so then you see one of the founders say, me I'm out. I don't want. I have a career to prevent. A few years ago, we had a startup that built an SMS service for the judiciary, and they took a lot of time and just to support the work of the judiciary. And then at some point, the judiciary was like, "Oh, thank you, go away. Now this is ours." and you're finding that. So that also kind of limits when you're having these kinds of incidents. It really demotivates and disempowers people, because then people come back and say, then why should I bother? Why should I even work towards developing innovative solutions if somebody out there will either try to kill it or take it for me? So it kills forever. Or even in a case, my third example is in South Africa, where this guy has developed sort of employment contracts in comic forms using a lot of visual. He's a lawyer for 30 years that enables people who are illiterate to be able to understand their employment rights. And one of the things he says that, for me, it's actually that this is legally binding, but for one of the things, for him to ensure it can be implemented across South Africa, he has to get sued. He has to actively look for people to sue him so that there can be a declaration by the court that the contracts he has developed are legally binding. So you find this small challenges is there, but I'm glad when I look beyond the challenges that we're still seeing a proliferation of people who are actively working towards building for their communities and helping their communities get legal empowerment and access to justice. And for me, that is a positive note. And sometimes, yes, there will be setbacks, but there are also a lot of wins along the way. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Eric. Now over to Uganda. Sandra, I know it's raining. You said it's raining, but I don't know if you have something to share with us about the work that you do, the legal empowerment approaches you have implemented, and any transformation you have seen in the lives of the beneficiaries that you serve. Hi, Sandra. Must be raining really heavily there in Uganda. We're also joined by Caitlin. We're also joined by Caitlin, who works in Somaliland, And I don't know, Caitlin, at this point, if you'd like to share a bit about what your organization does and some of the challenges and perhaps transformations that you have seen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin, and yes, I'm in Somaliland, which for those of you who don't know, it's a self-declared state in the northern part of Somalia. And I work at a local NGO here. We're called the Children's Legal Defense Center, and we're working with children in police stations and prisons who are wrongfully or unjustly detained and imprisoned. And what is underpinning this is a legal empowerment approach. So we don't exactly articulate it the way our friends at Namati do of know, use, and shape the law. Since we're in a criminal justice context, we say we help our clients know the law, how it applies to their case, and then we work alongside them to use it. And you know, with juveniles in prison, what this looks like in Somaliland, which is a pluralist legal system, is working with the families. So, you know, sitting down with mom, sitting down with dad, and saying, okay, this is the criminal justice system. This is how we could use a customary agreement to, you know, maybe mediate before it goes to trial. And this is where Sharia comes in. And a lot of times, you know, it really is transformative on a case-by-case basis, right? Because a lot of our juvenile clients, you know, if we help their families prove their age, if we help their families just bring some simple evidence to court, the court realizes they shouldn't be arrested and orders their release, right? So it can be really transformative getting a kid back home, right? That's a really powerful number one thing. But we've been doing this work for a few years now, since 2018. And, you know, that's not a very long time in the grand scheme of things. And so we've gotten really good at getting people out of police and prison, but they keep coming. So, you know, I think that transformative element is coming slowly. So one of the big challenges in Somaliland that causes people to keep coming into the system is just the mindset of the people in the system, right? Like with most criminal justice systems, you know, Somaliland is designed to arrest and convict and keep people as long as possible. So what we do, we're a small team right now, but we have lawyers on staff and also paralegals, and we take a very deliberate approach about how we interact with judges, police officers, prosecutors, and prison officials in a way that we're trying to change this mindset one person at a time, one justice official at a time, by being that alternative voice, right? So one example is recently we were helping a young mother who was arrested and accused of trading alcohol. So trading and drinking alcohol is a crime here. It's a Muslim majority country. And we just got involved in her case because she was imprisoned with her 2-month-old daughter. And so we're having this case, and the judge, the head judge of the regional court in Hargeisa, asked our lawyer, why are you working on this case? She's, you know, against Islam, she's trading alcohol. And he's just saying this in open court. And our lawyer responded, I'm helping her because everyone deserves a defense, no matter what they're accused of. And that's my job. So, you know, we're trying not only to legally empower or justice empower our clients and their families, but also the judges and the police officers and the prosecutors and the prison officials we come in contact with. And so we're hopeful, maybe incrementally, you know, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, we'll make some impact. But yeah, that's what's happening in Somaliland. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for sharing, Caitlin. And as you were sharing, it just you know, occurred to me, people make up the systems as well. And if, as you said, that you're trying to change, you know, maybe have transformations individual by individual or incrementally, then hopefully that will translate into large scale transformation, as is, or large scale system change as well. We have not heard from Uganda, so I'm seeing Pauliel is here with us. I don't know, Pauliel, if you have something else to add, or you have a different perspective on legal empowerment and its the power of transformation for using legal empowerment. Pauliel?
Oh, thank you, guys. Yeah, I've been listening and learning a lot. Thank you very much. I'm called Pauliel Nenchan. I work for Police Initiative for Rural Development Organization, BIRUDO. And of course, we have been engaged in legal empowerment through promoting land rights and access to justice. But we do a bit more of community organizing around the community affected with oil and gas. So in our approach, we do a bit of legal awareness, communities that empower them and make them get to know what law said and what is their rights and how they can engage with different stakeholders in oil and gas activities. And of course, also we do strategic engagements with the oil companies, with governments on issues that affect the project affected persons. And of course, also we play a big role in alternative dispute resolution, mediations. So, and also we have a number of roundtable engagements. So those are areas that we engage on, but of course also we support some litigation issues. We engage different lawyers, pro bono lawyers that can provide services to some of our community members who are affected. So basically those are things that we do, but of course, you know, the environment we're operating in and oil and gas, it keeps changing day by day because these have different phases. We start with exploration, it has its own associated challenges. When you come now, we are in a production, land acquisitions, for development, infrastructure development for oil and gas, and also have its own associated challenges. So you get that everything keeps changing, and communities they still have minds of exploration. Kumbe now they're in another phase, and you know how these companies behave. For them, they have a systems in place. All their things move very fast. So those are some of the challenges that we faced with our community and how to handle some of the issues that affect them. And of course, we are here to live with them. We are here to empower them, to make them know the law and also how they can engage within that framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pauliel. And just from the discussions, it's clear that legal empowerment works for us in the different contexts, and that one of the values of legal empowerment is its adaptability to the different contexts. So as Caitlin said, they don't necessarily know law, use law, shape law, but they, you know, use the laws that people can, you know, they use legal empowerment, that people know the law, and then they're able to, you know, access the justice that they need, and that makes sense to them at that point, at that time. I also see, like, from Pauliel's explanation, their methodology of legal empowerment is mostly, you know, community organizing, but it also moves in stages dependent on how the exploration goes on. I mean, on how the mining goes on. So you start with exploration, the community needs are different at the point of exploration. Then you move on with, you know, the whole sequence of how oil and gas is mined. You moved on to the next stage, and the needs also change. And also legal empowerment allows us to adapt to the different needs. Even as Eric was explaining, the legal empowerment that he uses is kind of, you know, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is tech-based. but it's still very responsive to what people need. So as a tool, legal empowerment is powerful, but it operates within a certain context that makes us achieving the transformative change that we view as ideal, as difficult to achieving, but we're still moving towards a transformative change incrementally. Now, with this in mind, I'd like to take the next question to Jean-Paul Ibambe. Jean-Paul was very, enthusiastic about how legal empowerment is working in their case, giving us really wonderful statistics of 1 million people being able to access justice through the innovation that they're implementing. But Jean-Paul, from your personal experience and from listening to the discussions here on this table, what would you do differently? What lessons have you learned?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would say that what we are doing we being organizations or people working in the legal empowerment field, what we are doing is very great, and the governments or any partner needs our work to empower the population, despite countries, religion, whatever. So in terms of maybe lesson learned from maybe what our colleagues have been saying and whatever, I will advise to everyone. I don't know if it is the case for other countries, because what we do, we mix the classic way of providing legal aid or legal empowerment with ICT. So there is a need to embrace ICT so that we reach a wider audience. That is one. Two, to deal with these, the consequences or challenges that have been brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. So there's a need to put more effort in using ICT in what we are doing every day. And of course, we will not ignore other means or classical means of providing legal aid, because not everyone has maybe access to mobile phone. So we need to couple both of two means. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Annette, in this 48 years that Kituo Cha Sheria has been doing this work, I'm sure there's some lessons that you've learned along the way. And having listened to everybody here, what would you do differently?
So I think first we would start by doing more of this kind of reflections, not just with partners, but also internally. I think there's a danger as practitioners of really being quick in implementation of activities, but then not coming back and really seeing what lessons are we getting from our beneficiaries, and what can we do differently, and what impact are our projects bringing to our beneficiaries. The other would be, I like what Eric was saying about starting from the beneficiary as a starting point. What are the needs of our people? I think if we take a step back and we're not really consulting, we should consult more with our beneficiaries as to what they feel their justice needs are, and then organize our legal empowerment approaches to suit them. And I think even now we are in a time where the civic space is very restricted. The rule of law is not being adhered to. Constitutionalism is at a really bad level. So I think we also need to look at, as practitioners, how do we use this legal empowerment approach within this kind of environment? an authoritarian kind of environment where you need a government that is more welcoming to the use of law for you to really achieve the successes that you set forward. Then the other is just the need to be adaptable, to be flexible. I think what has kept Kituo going for very long is its adaptability. And the issue of technology as a tool for access to justice is something that Kituo also had begun working around from 2015, and now it's really being picked up by many other organizations. So the need to kind of keep on being flexible, being adaptable to the changes that are happening around you makes you even more effective. And finally, I think what we would do differently is to focus more on quality as opposed to quantity. So looking at one life at a time. So have we transformed the life of that one client who came to the office in search of legal aid, or who inquired about a legal problem that they're having through our SMS platform, or even that paralegal that we have trained? How can we help them to use the knowledge that they have gained to bring change within their community? I think focusing on that would have even better results, as opposed to really looking more at, okay, I've trained 100 paralegals this year, or I've reached 10,000 people this year. I think moving away from that kind of approach to more of centering it on individuals may be a good way to go.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Also, as legal education is one of the strategies used for legal empowerment. And I remember, going to the field, going into a room that has maybe sometimes 100 or 200 community members, and we are supposed to be doing legal education. So when I look back, I mean, the numbers look great, when you're reporting back to the donor. But when I reflect and we're having this kind of reflection, I'm wondering, was it quality education that we're passing along, or we're just, ticking the box? And from the discussion we've had here, legal education is quite central to legal empowerment, because when you know how to use, when you know the law and then you know how to use it, then you're in a better position to start claiming those rights. So thank you so much for that challenge, Annette. Mustafa, what would you do differently? What would the citizenship do differently?
I think we are moving from what will we do differently, because we are trying to do it differently now. We are embracing technology. Just like the rest of the panelists have stated, technology is the new revolution. And as legal empowerment practitioners, we also need to embrace it. Or if not, we might be phased out with our approaches. We are developing a WhatsApp bot, a bot that basically can give, that interacts with an individual. For example, if you want to apply for an ID, it interacts with you, asks your age, where you're located, or to gauge if you've already qualified for an ID. After you've already qualified, it tells you what you need, where you can apply, your rights and all that. It's still in the development phase. We are also having an SMS platform that we are basically, because we realize that legal empowerment is a continuous process. It's not just a one interaction. We want to also start engaging our clients to give them more information. That's what you said about qualitative approach, because we might have like over 10,000 clients, but if we're not having more interactions, giving them the depth of knowledge that we've given our paralegals for all these years, then we won't be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And that's why I'm saying we're already going where we are going. It's because we've realized that for us to attain the change that we need the community to drive the change. When the community is the ones to approach the government and say, and giant campaign, that basically we are going to have a lot of social media content being developed. in terms of creating awareness on issues of nationality rights, just to paint the issue of discrimination out there, because you need the majority to serve the minority. So basically, we need to have it people-centered, and that's what we are trying to do. So our approach is now moving, because initially, just in summary, initially we were working with communities that didn't know that even this is a discrimination process. So they were looking at it as a favor. And then now we've made the community to be aware that this is a problem. Now they've already realized that this is a problem affecting them. Now the Nubian community knows that. Now the Kenya Somali community knows that. The Swahilis at the coast, the Arabs know that. Then now we bring them together. Then we begin a national movement around it. So we want to have a national movement around issues of nationality rights. So we are embracing technology, but all of it is people-centered, so that we build a movement of people talking about this issue with the larger public.
Yeah, I like the strategy of, broadening the base, deepening the bench. So it just doesn't look like a Nubian issue. It's a nationwide issue, and building a movement around that. And there's also, I know, a lot of interesting discussions about how legal empowerment ties into, social movements, and how the two can feed off each other. So maybe that's another conversation for another day. I know we're talking about the use of technology, and I don't know if Caitlin, I think Caitlin dropped off, but also just the situation in Somaliland might be slightly different in terms of, tech accessibility, but also to note that when we talk about technology, it's not like high-tech stuff, It can be the simple things like a phone and just trying to get the message across. Eric, a lot of talk about adapting to the use of technology. You guys have been in the game for a long time. What would you do differently?
Okay, so one of the things I always caution about use of technology is that I always say, so my general rule is this: meet people where they are at. Often what I've seen with innovators and even organizations that are very quick to run to technology, because people often singing to me how they are using AI, IoT, blockchain to better. Technology is a very useful tool, but also you are working within a space that, and this ties to your point about transformation, that there are gaps. There is a digital gap. I've seen where a lot of innovators, are trying to deploy the solutions on, we read a lot. There's a lot of mobile penetration. There is a lot of more people having smartphones. And then, and this was a lesson from Tanzania that came from one of our innovators there. When they were deploying, because one of the solutions deployed through a mobile app, they learned, oh, yes, a number of people have smartphones, but data is expensive. So how people use that data, they actually switch on their data, do some one or two things, and then they store. Or the kind of phone or device that's being used is, it's a low-grade smartphone that can only support a number of applications. So they would be asked, but why would I delete these other applications like WhatsApp, whatever, that are useful to me to put you as an application? It doesn't make sense. So there was that issue. Then there was also another, this was a lesson I learned when we were doing a few years ago in Somalia. And I had an innovator who was basically trying to provide knowledge to around a reporting system for gender-based violence for people. And then the question came down to, so in the household, who owns the phone? The man. So you are developing a solution that is to help, and who are most affected with gender-based violence? Women. You're helping us, you've created a solution to help women report on gender-based violence, but they do not own themselves phones. Yes, your data says that there are people in the household, they have a lot of phones, but it's always accessible to the man. So how do you, and if they go to ask the man, can I use the phone? They are like, for what? To do what with it? So technology is good in terms of scalability, but on its own can't work alone. What we have learned is a mixture or a hybrid approach when you're using technology, especially if you're serving bottom of the pyramid, where you both have in-person connections and touch points, and using the technology to scale and provide more efficiency in terms of it. So I'll give an example. This comes from one of our startups in South Africa who did a fantastic job. They basically wanted to, in townships, there is a lot of offices that deal with, they provide legal aid. But the problem with often what you find is that those offices sometimes only handle specific issues. So if I go there to ask for legal aid on land, I will only handle land. I will not handle, domestic issues. So what he did is that maybe I don't need to, work around providing a direct solutions for the user. What I can do is create a platform that connects all legal aid offices to each other, that when an issue that they can't handle it can be easily put into the system, connected to one that can, and already there's an exchange. So looking at technology beyond how it impacts directly to the people, because there is a digital gap, and that's just a reality. But how can we also use it as a system that connects us, different legal practitioners, to be able to get a hold of these issues early enough in whatever locality and provide that services in the traditional way. So that's one hybrid approach. So in conclusion, I say meet people where they are at, understanding their reality and understanding the limitations also technology provides. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as you were making the presentation, I realized the taxes on data has gone up. So Mustafa, even as we're doing, the WhatsApp bot and trying to use technology that is sometimes dependent on internet, we're looking at how the impediments, accessing internet is also a budgetary issue or a budgetary question. We are now going to hear from, sorry, I see that Mutanu's hand is up. Mutanu, do you have something that you'd like to contribute?
Yes. Yes. Yes,
yes.
Let me just lower my hand. I really like that Eric highlighted our reality as the African continent, considering where the price of data has gone up. We have low smartphone usage or even penetration, and our electricity is only concentrated in the town centers. But as you were speaking, I want to look at technology in a way that it can help our legal empowerment work. So the thing about technology is that it's advancing faster than we are implementing the laws. So I'm thinking that it's about time that we as legal empowerment organization then influence law, we shape the law such that if or when we implement the technology then they will come, if they will favor the legal empowerment work that we do, and that they will favor the issues that we want to address. I think it's about time we started looking at the future. Yes, solving the problems now, but also looking to shape the laws such that technology in itself can help us solve the problems in the future. Like shape technological laws, in short, that's what I'm trying to say.
I got you. Thank you, Mutanu, so much for reminding and, putting a reality check for us, and how Eric, put it so beautifully. Caitlin, while you're away, Mustafa had started with a very heavy statement and saying technology is, one of the ways to go, but we've gone round and we're basically saying we should meet people where they're at. There's the reality of the digital divide. Technology is a very useful tool, but used within a hybrid system. And all of this is to discuss about how legal empowerment is very flexible and adapting to the challenges that we are facing right now, especially within this COVID-19 pandemic that is fast shaping to become an African problem. So, Caitlin, I don't know, what lessons you have learned on using legal empowerment in Somaliland. I don't know if technology is an option for you. And if not, what lessons do you take moving forward from here?
Thanks, Ime, and sorry my connection dropped, but happy to be back. So in Somaliland, I would say we're very, not very tech savvy yet. Our main form of technology is phone calls with our juvenile clients' parents. And, you know, we were doing work remotely at the beginning of COVID for a while. And what we were able to pull together really quickly was a network with police investigators to refer us new cases, right? Because even though it was COVID, they're still out busy arresting people. So we were able to develop, you know, a client referral mechanism just through simple, you know, block phones. And that was really useful and successful within Somaliland, where, you know, the majority of our clients don't have smartphones, but, you know, they just have block phones. So we've continued to do that. But I think for us, you know, I think COVID taught us and that really within the Somaliland space and within the criminal justice space, there is no substitute for proximity, right? Proximity to people who are detained. You know, we're back in prison, we're back in the police station. Luckily, COVID was never quite severe here, but there's just no replacing that. And there's no replacing sitting across from a mother or father who's, you know, upset and beset by grief because their teenage son is arrested and he can't go back to school. So I think we see a place for technology and supporting our work, especially in Somaliland, where you know, there are a lot of spread out police stations and a lot of spread out prisons. So it's very helpful in identifying people who need our assistance. But as soon as we were able, we went back fully in person because it's just really hard to replace that. So that would be my take on technology. And, you know, really, I think moving forward, at least in our space in Somaliland, you know, we'll try to keep doing this hybrid approach of where we can't physically be, you know, in person with people, whether it's a really remote community in Somaliland that's hard to get to, or, you know, there's a client in a city that we don't work in yet. We've had a lot of success just giving people basic advice over the phone and helping walk them through the steps of what they have to do, how to navigate the criminal justice system. So I think for us moving forward, it'll be a hybrid, definitely. Thanks, Ime.
Thank you. The conversation is fast becoming, it's bleeding into a possible webinar, by the way, because we had planned on having a webinar on the use of technology in the legal empowerment space. But also this plays in well into how, you know, lessons learned and how we're adapting, because we're within a COVID-19 space and our realities have changed given what COVID has done to our legal empowerment programs and how it has impacted our programs. So far, what we are gathering from lessons learned is that we need to have more self-reflections like this as legal empowerment organizations. We should focus on quality over quantity, be more deliberate in our approaches when implementing, you know, legal empowerment. And then also the realization that, you know, impact can be at an individual level, and that is okay. And it can also happen at a systems level, but that takes time. And that is also okay, because we've just learned that, you know what, we're in this for the long haul. Just as the conversation is coming to an end, I see that Philip from Lusaka has joined us again. Philip, we'd just like to know, I mean, you've been in this game for legal empowerment for quite some time. And congratulations that Zambia just passed its Legal Aid Act the other day. So that's well in terms of trying to transform a system. But what lessons have you learned and what would you do differently? Philip, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Oh, so maybe as Philip is gathering his thoughts, or maybe there's a digital divide somewhere, we're also joined by Com Ndemezo. Com is from Rwanda. And Com, in your work doing legal empowerment, would you like to share with us some of the lessons you've learned and what you're taking forward from this conversation?
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to first restart by apologizing because I joined a bit late, but I think I was able to follow the whole discussion that was just going on. And as you said, I'm Comme Ndemezo. I work with Haguruka. Haguruka is one of the women-led organization in Rwanda, established in 1991. And some of the areas that we intervene, or our key pillars that the organization is working on, the first one is legal aid and psychosocial counseling, which actually falls under these discussions. And the second one is awareness raising activities and social mobilization. We also have some activities on this component that goes with community education, increasing the awareness in the community in terms of legal literacy. And we also have other components on the capacity building, specifically towards different partners and other duty bearers. So we also have another pillar which is focused on research and advocacy, of course, concerning the area, some of the key areas of the intervention. So as you said, the discussion was the impact of COVID on the work we are doing as a legal aid or legal empowerment. So basically, I would say that before COVID-19, Haguruka legal aid activities were mainly legal advice, referrals, legal representation to support indigent and marginalized people to access to justice. We also had activities in terms of raising awareness in the community through mobile legal aid clinics and community dialogues. So this is basically what we do in terms of legal aid, but also in terms of awareness, because legal aid touches on those two components. We have legal aid, specifically in the awareness raising. But when we entered into the first COVID lockdown, most of the activities we had on the field were suspended because we had almost 2 months being working out from home, and which means that most of the activities like community dialogues, mobile legal aid clinics, we were not able to conduct them because travels were restricted. Gathering, having people coming together, it was not allowed. So, and because we have regional centers, we have 4 regional centers across the countries, the offices were closed because we could not receive people. And the people could not have access to legal aid as it was supposed to be, because we had to comply with the government measures against COVID-19. So what we did, we immediately started toll-free line. We started toll-free line, and we did what we call radio spots, at least to make people be aware of the toll-free line, our toll-free line. And within 2 months, we were able to receive almost 200 beneficiaries or right holders, because our line was not known, but when we started Radio Sport to make people be aware of our number, because the number had gradually increased, and so far we could receive at least 800 people per month. So seeking for legal aid, information, legal advice, and so on. And so this, of course, this pandemic gave us a lesson, and it challenged us to think how could we maintain and sustain our activities while complying to the government and all health sectors guidelines against COVID-19. And we saw that there is no any other way. Instead of trying to gradually move from this analog system, which, if I can say, the analog system of how we are doing things, and move to digital way of providing the services to the people, building the capacity of the people, raising awareness of the people, but slow online and digital ways. So when it comes to COVID, this is also the main lesson that we can say. But still on the awareness, building the capacity of the local communities in terms of knowing what the law says, and also having Know Your Rights campaign, having people know their rights. We still have another choice of how we can do it, though in terms of measuring the impact, it is also still challenging. So let's say using radio or radio communities, spreading messages on succession law. Of course, the message will reach to a big number of the people, but you will not be able to measure the exact impact of what we did through community radios. So this is some of the challenge that this digital or this online platform that you are using today, because some of them, it's not easy to capture the impact. And when we go and when we talk of gender, how many people, how many women were reached, because we also need to have this number. This was partly about awareness raising, but also we, as an observation that I have seen, the work we are doing, we also need to make people be aware of using these alternative dispute resolutions. Because sometimes when we are talking about legal empowerment, people mostly are limited to courts, provision of legal advice, legal representations, but you also need to raise awareness on the importance of these alternative dispute resolution. And some, in most of the time, we find them in different countries. We do have, like in Rwanda, we have what we call abunzi. They are local mediators. We also have other informal structures that can involve in the resolution of these disputes. We also have community paralegals at the grassroots level who can also do this mediation and other types of conflict resolution mechanisms. So this is what I can say. Maybe I took much time, but thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Com. Thank you, Com. It's quite refreshing to hear your reflections as well, in the sense that legal empowerment is within a context. So Caitlin shows that the legal empowerment approach is used within a Sharia law country, and you try and navigate the two and look at the best justice outcome for the people that you're serving. In Kenya, for example, we just recently, thanks to a study that was done by HIL, that is Eric's organization, we were able to formalize what you're calling the informal justice systems, alternative justice systems, as a means to, achieving justice, because not everybody wants to go to court, and the courts are not accessible to everyone. Just the language is off sometimes, it takes a long time, very many reasons. So I'm glad that legal empowerment allows for this flexibility and adaptability. I saw that Philip's hand was up. Philip, I saw your hand was up, and also Lawyers of Hope. So I'm assuming that's Frank Musabe. Philip, just before you speak, I was saying congratulations on having Zambia have recently passed their Legal Aid Act. That's, it's good news to see some transformative change at that level, but also having been in the game for so long, not to age you, but having been in the game for quite some time, what lessons have you learned in terms of legal empowerment, and what will you be taking forward from this conversation?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. I dropped out because of the connection. Yes, but well, I mean, thank you for acknowledging or recognizing the efforts Zambia has made to come up with the law. Of course, just to say something about the law, it's a step. It's a right step in the. It's a good step in the right direction. Though, of course, there's still a few things that we wanted to be done differently, looking at the law as it is. But what is important for us is that at least we have paralegals now being recognized by law for the very first time, actually, and all that. Talking about lessons, well, I think a number of things. I think one of the things that I can mention is that I think certain things take a long time to change. For you to begin to see changes, I think it takes a very, very long time, and things like that. And yeah, sometimes you can think you are not winning or you are not achieving anything, if you don't pay attention to other things that are happening. I'll give an example, like in our situation. I think certain cultural issues, it's difficult for certain people to change, to just, appreciate that this is my right and I need to embrace it. I need to, claim it when things happen and things like that. Here, when you look at issues of gender-based violence, for instance, of course, I'll talk about women because I think most of the time they're the ones who are more disadvantaged. You find sometimes they'll report a case, of violence, you follow it up, the police will come in and things like that, but then all of a sudden they disappear. They are nowhere to be seen because family members have sat and said, you can't actually go ahead and take this person, because they end up being in prison and they're your husband or your uncle, things like that. It's a breadwinner in the family and you have nothing or you have no one actually to look after you when this person goes to, prison and things like that. So we've seen cases actually being dropped, of people just disappearing. And in many times they are key witnesses. And so even the police actually have challenges to proceed with certain matters and things like that. And for me, it's a cultural issue, but also issues of poverty. Because if you are more dependent on this person who is violent, you may not want to leave them, because you are safe. They're the ones that are providing for you and, and things like that. But I think moving forward, of course, is to continue passing on the information and also focusing on, the quality, services that you can provide as opposed to, how many people you are going to save, or maybe, you want to focus on, you want to attend to all the women in this particular community, all the people that need legal aid in this particular community. You may not want, or you may not see, a lot of results. But if it's one you have assisted and, successfully, and with all that, you pay attention to the kind of help that they needed, and I think you would see more results in that sense. But also we have seen also things that needs to change. For instance, trainings of paralegals. You know, we've been talking that, look, probably issues of quality, you know, that it's not, you know, how many, you know, these big numbers that you are training, but is to look at, okay, how many do you have and they're active, you know, they're doing their work. Because sometimes you train 100, you know, you place them in their places or in those communities that they are serving, but then you realize that maybe only a few are active, only a few are providing the service that you need, you know, and all that. And if there isn't good supervision, then you won't see much results. You won't see, you know, much success in that sense. So I think it's the issue of looking at, even if numbers are smaller, but we're looking at the quality of service that is being, you know, provided. But also, I think what is also important is issue of collaboration. You know, I think we need to emphasize on legal empowerment organizations actually to collaborate more, to work more together, you know, and things like that. Because it helps when you are doing a lot of advocacy work. I think speaking one language, you will achieve more. You know, you have more results. You know, and all that. And actually, for instance, if it's an advocacy issue, as you approach the policymakers, they will understand. They will see that actually you are speaking one voice. You are not you know, differing in terms of what you are thinking should be done and things like that. So collaboration is very, very important. Working together as organizations, paralegal organizations or legal aid organizations, I think it's very, very important as well. Technology, like others have put it, I think it's just something we can't do away with at the moment. I mean, we just have to learn new things. We just have to learn new things on how to do things, reaching out to the people. We may not have physical meetings every time or every now and then, you know, because of various reasons, of course. Funding is reducing. You may not manage to go to all the areas, you know, for you to do your meetings and things like that. And so use of social media, use of radio, you know, if you can, and use of phones and things like that is something actually that we need to embrace, you know, at this time. You know, of course, there are those challenges of connections, connectivity in certain rural places, but where we can, I think is something that we need to begin to use and things like that. Also, you know, like now, a lot of restrictions because of coronavirus pandemic, you know, clients are relying on phones. If you tell them, no, we are not in the office, we are closed, they'll be calling. You know, others will be sending emails. Those that they contact you through Facebook or whatever, you know, just to make sure that they get the help that they are looking for. So, yeah, I think these are things that we need to focus on moving forward so that we see more results. Otherwise, I think a lot has been achieved. You know, a lot has been achieved, though of course we still have a lot of things to do because things are changing. We have created a lot of awareness, but you know, it's not the same people. Tomorrow in this particular community, people are moving, they have gone somewhere else and there are new people coming in. If you look at companies, new companies are coming on, and others are still, and they're still abusing their workers and things like that. So we still need to, you know, create awareness. We still need to reach out to them so that we see to it that, you know, people are empowered, you know, to have the knowledge that is needed. So yeah, that would be my contribution.
Thank you so much, Philip, for that. And I still see the thread of, you know, quality is one thing that we really need to reflect on, even as we use technology as one of the tools in legal empowerment. How do we ensure that this quality is still in that Facebook advice, you know, over the phone advice or a text advice? How do we ensure that we are meeting people at their justice needs? Thank you for those thoughts. I see that Frank Musabe or Lawyers of Hope, your hand was up. Either can speak.
Hello.
Hi, finally.
Finally, I can join you. Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize for have been struggling to connect, but finally, as you said, we are here now. We are joining as a legal empowerment practitioner. First of all, my name is Frank Musabe, and I'm working with the Layers of Hope. And I would like also to contribute to this program through sharing with you our understanding of legal empowerment, and also sharing with you our experience as a legal empowerment practitioner here in Rwanda. But before we share with you our experience, I don't know whether you can get me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I was saying that Royals of Hope is a Christian and governmental organization that is registered in that was registered in 2006 in Rwanda. So far, it is having 243 members, including practicing lawyers, other lawyers who are not practicing, as well as students who are doing law from different universities here in Rwanda. It has the main mission of creating the atmosphere which enables members and the other stakeholders to contribute to the access of justice and improve the well-being of the vulnerable members of the Rwandan community. So actually, with 15 years of extensive experience, Lawyers of Hope has been empowering multifaceted players in the legal aid provision, as well as access to justice sector. Mainly, Lawyers of Hope has different approaches of legal empowerment. The first approach of legal empowerment that Lawyers of Hope has is the training of community paralegals. Community paralegals, Lawyers of Hope believes in community paralegals because it has been established that these people who are non-lawyers, who work specifically, or who live specifically within the community at the grassroots level, would have the impact of helping in solving legal issues faced by the community without necessarily the concerned people coming to the office, to legal aid offices, which should even be located in remote areas. Therefore, Lawyers of Hope has established and trained, and also is receiving reports from paralegals. And therefore, we are seeing the impact that because when we get down in the community, many people there they show up to us saying they testify that community paralegals have been solving or even orienting them. So it was it is very easy for them to access to justice. Secondly, Lawyers of Hope conduct community legal education. This is the fact that members of the through the partnership with local authorities, they organize mass education on different roles, on the awareness of the functionality of justice sector, the awareness on social roles. Social roles are these roles which are mostly or frequently used by the population. Here we mean family law, succession law, land law, the law relating to GBV, and other roles that these are roles which are most of the time used and needed by the people at the grassroots level. And also this mass education is taking place when there is a neuro in force, because people from the remote area should not be aware of the changes that this law has brought in
Frank, just sorry to interrupt you, but just in the interest of time, we're aware of the strategies that you're using. Perhaps as you wind up, could you tell us the lessons that you have learned when you look back at the work you've been doing for the past 15 years as Layers of Hope? What are the lessons that you've learned, and what are some of the things you are carrying forward from this conversation?
Well, thank you so much. And it has been very, very important because what we have seen is that legal empowerment plays a very big role in the access and in the promotion of the access to justice. And what we have learned is that it should be strengthened. Here we mean the existing legal empowerment approaches should be strengthened. Also, it should be expanded to reach as many people as possible, because when we look at what we've been doing, and we should not be able to reach far from where we are now. And if that can happen, the access to justice will be attained. Secondly, we have been facing some of the challenges, and we are glad to hear that in Zambia, paralegals are now recognized through Legal Aid Act. And this, if that should happen here in Rwanda, also the activity that sometimes is remained unreported by paralegals should be recognized. So concerning the issue of the pandemic we are facing now, Layers of Hope has been using local radios and different campaigns on social medias. But also, as Hagruka has mentioned, it has been out of the. It was very hard to measure the impact, but many people are showing up, whether physically or virtually through our mobile telephones. So therefore, it was very important to be with you, and having this regional networking on legal empowerment. We believe it is one of the important facet of improving our national or our own legal empowerment approach, because we are trying to get what good practices are from there, so that we can improve our own. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Frank. And sorry that we had to rush you just because in the interest of time, but I do appreciate the connectivity challenge. So even within this conversation, we're facing, the various access to technology issues that we have been speaking about. So thank you all for your contributions towards this discussion. It's a fast discussion in a two-part series. So the next conversation we're going to have is on the 12th of August, again on crucial questions around legal empowerment. It has been very interesting to learn about your views on legal empowerment. Clearly, we all believe that legal empowerment is a powerful tool, and that within the context that we're working in, this is a very difficult context, but legal empowerment is still helping us to have that change individual at a time. And within the system, it's incremental. And as Mustafa was saying, in not so many words, it could be that maybe it's long after our time, but the changes might be felt. So we're in this for the long haul. Thank you for sharing your reflections with us. Thank you for being present during this meeting. This meeting has been recorded. We will also synthesize it and share it with all of you. Do have a wonderful rest of the evening and a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.